Hey guys, it's Leah. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a fitted diaper. So a fitted diaper isn't waterproof. It's just made of some sort of either absorbent material or a material that's going to wick away the moisture from your baby's bottom with a built-in soaker. And I'm showing you these because they're probably one of the easier things to make. But not only that, they're easier to make because most people have the materials just around the house. You don't have to go out and buy some special material like PUL, which is the waterproof material, since they're not waterproof. And you don't have to make these out of fleece. I'm going to show you, or flannel. You don't have to make them out of flannel. I'm going to show you how to make them out of flannel. That's what I'm going to be using, but you can really make them out of anything that is some sort of soft material that's going to be up against your baby's bottom that won't repel the liquid. So you could make them out of fleece with a soaker built in, maybe some sort of cotton. You could make them out of like a terry material, like maybe like a towel material, really whatever you have on hand. Like I said, I'm going to be making them out of flannel because that's what I have on hand. So here's the first things you're going to need. You're going to need a pattern. This one I actually got online for free. You just have to print it out and cut it and kind of tape it together. And it was free, so that's really great. I'll put a link down in the subject, linking to where I got this pattern. The other thing you're going to need is flannel. Just enough for 2 sides of your pattern. And the next thing you're going to need is some sort of material to act as the soaker that you're going to sew in. This is just a pre-fold. It hasn't been washed or anything. And I'm only going to, because this is the actual newborn diaper that I'm making. You can make any size diaper you want, but I'm making a newborn diaper. I'm just going to use half of this pre-fold for the soaker. So I'll just cut it in half so I could get another diaper out of this pre-fold. So then next what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to cut out your pattern. So place it on your fabric. If you want to pin it, you can. I just usually use a couple pins. Make sure your fabric is doubled over on itself because you're going to need to cut 2 of these out because you're going to need a front and a back. And if you want it to be a little bit stretchier, flannel doesn't have a lot of stretch, but make sure that the stretchiest side of your fabric is going this way, horizontal, because then when your baby has it on, it will stretch a little bit to the sides, but not that much. I'm not going to worry about it that much. I think my stretch goes this way, but it's not going to really make that much of a difference. Okay, so now that I have cut out my fabric from the pattern with the 2 sides, as you can see, I made mine square, my edges square. Even though the pattern was round, I like square. You can do whatever you want. The next thing you have to do is you're going to take one of these sides and you're going to sew in one of these soakers. But like I said, because this is a newborn diaper, I'm only going to need half of this soaker. So, very simply, I am just going to take my rotary cutter and cut it in half. It's kind of crooked. It doesn't really matter. It's going to be sewn in. Nobody's going to see it. So, there you go. Now it's cut in half. Now it's smaller. See? You're going to set that aside because you only need one of them. So with this one, I'm going to fold in the sides. And then what I like to do, you might not really have to do this, but I just like it, is I take this to my sewing machine and I sew along. So I smush these all over so they're all flush, the sides. And I sew along these sides so it's kind of becomes one soaker and it's not flapping around. And just to be clear, I'm using a pre-fold for my soaker. You don't need to use a pre-fold. You can use anything that's going to be absorbent. If you have old towels lying around the house, you can use that. Here, I'll show you. I bought these from the automotive section in Target. They're microfiber, which is really absorbent, and which is what soakers are usually made of. I think I got 11 of them for like $4. So you could buy some of these. You could use these as soakers because they're really absorbent. If like maybe you're making a larger one for a larger baby. Or if, like I said, you have a towel lying around the house or some cotton, just make sure you just do a couple layers because, like, especially if certain materials like cotton, it might not be as absorbent as some of, this has a couple layers built into it, so I don't need to do a couple of these. Okay, so just you can do whatever you have. If you want to make this cheap, you can make it cheap. So I'm going to go sew this down and then I'll show you it. Okay, so here is my sewn down soaker. I used a serger, which just serges the edges, if you can see that. But you don't need a serger. You can just sew it down with your sewing machine, okay? It just makes it look prettier, but nobody's going to be seeing it. So just use your sewing machine, okay? So then what you're going to do is you're going to take this soaker, and on the wrong side of one of the fabrics that you have cut out, one of the pattern pieces, you're going to lay it down about in the center. You can put it, if you're having a boy and you think they're going to be front heavy, soaking up in the front more, you can put it higher. You can put it in the back for a girl, whatever you want. I just am going to put mine in the center. And then you can pin it down if you want to make sure it gets in the center. And then you're just going to go to your sewing machine and you're going to sew it down onto this piece of fabric all the way around. Okay? See, this is sewn down, so it's not going anywhere. And you can kind of see it sewn on the right side of the fabric. Okay? So the next step you're going to do is you're going to put the right sides together, both of the pieces, like this. Match them up nicely. You can pin around the edges if you would like. And then you're going to sew all the way around a 1/4 inch or maybe even a little bit more because you're going to have to sew elastic onto the seam allowance, so make sure you have enough to sew an elastic in. But what you're going to do is you're going to have to keep open the front here. So you're going to start from here and you're going to sew all the way around the edge, sewing them together until you come back to here. And you're going to backstitch, and then you're going to leave this open so you can flip it back right side out when you're done sewing. So now that you have sewn along the edges until here, so this is left open, the next step is you're going to sew on the elastic to the legs on both sides and in the back so that it can, really be snug on your baby. So the pattern, at least that I used, and most of the patterns you're going to get, are going to have notations. And this is going to tell you where your elastic is going to start and where it's going to end. Okay? So I bought this from Joann Fabrics. It's 3/8 braided elastic. And you can use whatever size you want. You can use smaller if you want. I just have been using this size and it seems to work good for all my patterns. Okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to take your pattern and you're going to lay it on still while your pieces are out, inside out. And you're going to mark on your pattern here, 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 here on the seam allowance and up there where the elastic should start and end. So as you can see, I've marked on my pattern on the seam allowance where the elastic is going to stretch from and to. So the next part is you have to cut your elastic. So here's my elastic. So the easiest way to figure out how much elastic you're going to need is I put it on one point and then I stretch it to the other point So as you can see, a little bit past because you're going to need some seam allowance even for when you sew on the elastic. And then you're going to fold that in half with the point that you found, like this. Okay. And you're going to snip it. So you're pretty much finding the point and just cutting it in half. So I'll show you. So I cut that. So as you can see, it's pretty much just half of that point because you want it to be able to stretch from this point to this point and to have some tension in between so that it's keeping it on your baby. And you're going to do the same thing for the legs, okay? So you're going to measure from here all the way down to here with your elastic. Okay, so that's my point from here to here on my leg. And I'm just going to cut that, and then I'm going to cut it in half, and I'm going to use one for this side and one for that side. So now I have my elastic cut. So as you can see, it's significantly smaller than the area that you have marked, and that's because you need it to have some stretch, which is what elastic is for. So that when you're done, it will kind of bunch up like this around their legs and like that around their back. So to secure these onto your diaper, this is probably the trickiest part. You're going to just sew them on here on your seam allowance. So you're just going to kind of go back and forth. You're not going to sew the whole thing down. You're just going to sew this way a couple times, and then you're going to stretch it over here, and you're just going to sew on this point a couple times this way just to secure them, but you're not going to sew it along the entire way, and I'll show you why later. So you're going to do that in each point, and maybe I'll try to show you on the sewing machine if I can hold the camera and sew at the same time. Okay, so here we are at the sewing machine. I am at the back part, so here's the first mark and here's the second mark. I'm just going to take my back elastic and I'm going to, go a little past the mark like that on my seam allowance. You don't want to sew over your seam allowance or you'll see it when you flip it inside out. And then you're just going to put your presser foot down, and then you're just going to sew back and forth a couple times to secure it, slowly. Then you're going to take it out and just cut that excess. So here's that one we just did. Just going to kind of fold it over like that, and then you're going to put your elastic on the next mark, and you're going to do the same thing. And then just cut off your excess. Here's the leg part. You're going to do the same thing as you did on this part, except on the legs. So you're going to first sew down this one back and forth, go down to the other end, and then sew down this one, and then do it on the other side, and then we'll do the next step. After you do that, this is what it looks like. They're just kind of free hanging on those marks that you sewed them down on the seam allowance, okay? And at this point, maybe you can trim off some of the excess, like in the edges, so that your corners pop if you end up doing a square corner. And then you can flip your diaper at this point inside out. Here's your diaper flipped right side out, and it is going to look a little wonky because your elastic isn't sewn in yet, encased yet. So don't worry about it. That's what it's supposed to look like. At this point, what you're going to do is you are going to pin down on the corners that don't have elastic. So like up here, you're going to pin down the edges, and then up here, you're going to take that opening that you had to flip it inside out, and you're going to pin that inside itself so that when you sew along the edges, here I'll show you my finished one. So what you're doing at this point is you're sewing along all of these edges so that it just kind of sews everything down, okay? So that's why you have to fold these in like this, and then you're going to pin it. So when you sew along, you won't even be able to know that you never had sewn that in the first time. And then when we get to the leg gussets, I'll show you how to do the leg gussets because it's kind of hard to pin them. Can't really pin them without, you know, the pins kind of going all over the place with having the elastic in there. As you can see, I have pinned down the areas. That don't have the elastic. So the elastic starts here, start pinning again, stop pinning because the elastic is up here, start pinning. And you don't even have, if you don't want to pin, you don't even have to pin. If you are good at that, you don't have to. I usually don't pin much, but I know it's probably easier for some people. And just remember, when you're making this, it doesn't have to look perfect. Your baby's pooping in this, and it doesn't have to be exact. Your lines don't have to be exact, you know what I mean? Don't stress about it. Like I said, your baby's taking a dump in this thing. So it's not rocket science. Okay, so I'm going to start sewing over here up at the top. I'm going to sew down, and then once I get to the elastic, I'm going to show you how to encase your elastic, which means you're not going to sew over the elastic. You're just going to kind of sew it into a little case so that it scrunches up like you want it to scrunch up and where you want it to. So I started sewing down my edges, and you can just see it's just really close to the edge. You're just sewing a line around so that your edges lay nicely and they don't pucker like this. So that they're all nice and sewn down, okay? At this point, I've gotten to my first area where my elastic is sewn in. So my elastic, this is one of my leg elastics. And what you're going to do is you're kind of just going to feel where your elastic is. Naturally, the elastic is kind of going to go towards that center. You know, it's going to fold in. But you don't want to sew over your elastic because it won't work right if you sew over your elastic. So, you want to straighten it out, and you just kind of want to feel, make sure your elastic is flush with this corner, so I can tell my elastic is right here. And once you get to the elastic, you're just going to bump over like this. Bump over a little bit so you're not hitting your elastic. And you're just going to come out and kind of encase your elastic. So here's your elastic, maybe this is where it ends. You're going to have a stitch right next to it, just encasing it all the way down until you get to the end, okay? And I'll show you right when I'm done what it looks like. So you might have to pull this end a little bit. Just make sure your presser foot is down when you do that. Make sure you pull the elastic so it's flush the entire time. Here you see, if I can pull it out, that's where I started sewing over the elastic. You can see it, it's kind of blurry. And it started bunching up as you pull it and make sure the elastic is still in there, it starts bunching up. And here I am just at the end where the elastic ends on the front. And I'm just going to jog back over and start sewing around the edge again until you get to the next elastic, and you're going to do the same thing. You're going to jog back over, catch your elastic, catch around your elastic till the end, start sewing your seam allowance again, and then when you get up to here, you're going to do the exact same thing. Jog back down, encase your elastic until the end. Here I've gotten to my second elastic, and I'm just going to see how I just jogged right around the elastic. with my needle down, I'm going to lift my presser foot up, straighten it back out so I can just go right down around the elastic, and then put the presser foot down. And then I'm just kind of going to pull this as I go, making sure that the elastic is flush over here so you're not catching it with your needle all the way to the end. The back of the diaper sewed along, and now I'm up here where the back elastic is, and you're just going to pull, make sure it's flush with the elastic, and you're just going to jog over. So, just going to now I'm going to again lift my presser foot, straighten out, and go back down. And then I'm just going to sew and encase the back elastic. So then at that point, after you've finished, your diaper is almost done. As you can see, your leg elastic is all sewn in and cased in, and your back too. So when you flip it up like this, and you fold over the corners like that, it's a little diaper at this point. If you wanted, you could stop at this point, and you don't have to put elastic on, or you don't have to put Velcro on the front or on here, or snaps. You could stop, and you could use the baby diaper pins if you wanted. It would be just as easy, and probably more cost effective if that's what you wanted to do. But I know some people are afraid of diaper pins, and so they would rather use elastic. And this is the elastic I have, Babyville Boutique Easy Adjust Tape. Or you can use snaps. But if you have snaps, you have to buy a snap plier like this. This is also Babyville. They're pretty cheap. I got this on sale for $9. So if you want to invest in snaps, you're going to be doing more project with snaps. It's not that expensive. These snaps are also pretty cheap. They're cam snaps, but they do work with the Babyville pliers. I got them on eBay, I think like 200 for $7 or something like that, 200 sets. Okay? I'm going to put elastic, or I'm going to put a Velcro on mine, so I'll show you how to do that. I mean, it's really easy. You just pretty much sew it down here, sew 2 tabs like this. So I'll show you on the one that's done. So you just sew a front piece, and then you sew the other side of the elastic on the tabs, and then you're done. Here is the Velcro sewn on. So when you close it, there's your diaper. It's all done. And this would just have to be worn with a diaper cover, like something like this, because it's not waterproof. So that is how you make a fitted diaper. And here it is, all done. It's very cute, very small for a newborn. But like I said, that can be used for any size diaper that you want. And just so you know, that is the same way you would make an all-in-one diaper. So here is a similar newborn diaper, but it's waterproof. And the only difference is that instead of fleece on the outside, this is PUL. This is a waterproof fabric. So one side would be, you would cut out of this PUL fabric. And then on the inside, if you wanted to use fleece, or if you wanted to use flannel, you could use flannel. But I use, on the inside of my all-in-one diapers, I use a micro fleece. So that's the only difference. So, like I said, you can take these instructions and you could make an all-in-one diaper. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I will be back showing you how to make some other types of diapers, maybe some pocket diapers that you can stuff. So I will see you next time.